All right, welcome to another edition of the OC Show. I'm your host, Donnie Henderson, and I have another special guest with me, Lions fan David Johns. David, welcome to the OC Show, man.
Well, thank you. I'm more of an OC than you. I'm born in 73, so I think I got you by a little bit.
You got me. You do have me. OC stands for only child because I'm an only
Oh,
child.
only child. I was thinking OG. Old
Oh no,
guy.
no, 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 no. I'm not.
Only
I'm
child.
no
Okay.
gangster. I'm no
I get
gangster.
it.
But I was going to ask that. That was part of how I was going to lead into something else. So you are a little bit older than me, so you got a couple years on me. Still, we're in the same boat. We're Lions fans. And
Yes.
for years and years and years, we've been suffering. But the first question I want to ask you, what is your earliest memory of being a Lions fan?
Okay. My first memory of being a Lions fan, I loved baseball. That was my sport. Uh, I went something my grandma was watching on TV I wasn't interested in, and I went in my grandpa's bedroom with his black and white TV with rabbit ears and turned on a Lions game. And I started watching and trying to I'd played football at recess, but never watched a game. And it was a Lions Packers game. Lynn Dickey, do you remember that name? Lynn Dickey, the Green Bay quarterback.
You got me on that one.
You
No.
got to be an old guy to remember. Lynn Dickey versus Gary Danielson for the two
You know Gary
quarterbacks.
Danielson, yes.
And they were two of the worst teams in football. So this would probably been around 1979, 80, something like that. That's my first memory as a Lions fan. How about you? What's your first one?
My like we're actually more similar than we would actually know. I'm a baseball guy myself. Baseball is my first love. Baseball is my favorite sport. But
Okay.
I didn't get into football until like one of my best friends, Mark Taylor, who watches a lot. Shout out to you, Mark. Um, invited he would invite me to football games, and at first I was like, I don't care about football. I don't want to go. But
Yeah.
being like third, fourth, fifth, not even that young, about sixth, seventh, like junior high age, she would invite me to games. So we would just go to hang out, and I'd go to the Silverdome,
Yeah.
and we'd be out there. And shout out to Mr. and Mrs. Taylor for having the season tickets, always
Yeah.
being able to bring me. So I went to probably thanks to the Taylor family in the early '90s. I probably went to about 20 home games,
Early
and
90s. So Barry's entrance
so
on the scene.
So yep. So I was big Barry Sanders guy. So I saw him actually. I was at the game when he broke 2000, and that was also the game that Utley got hurt. Usually Utley or Reggie. I think it was
It
Utley who
was
got.
Reggie Brown. I was at that game as well with my brother, my dad. The loudest place I've ever been in my life
Yeah.
was, and if you remember, he had a loss on the next play after he broke the 2000.
Yes, and
I
then
don't
and then
think
he broke
people were,
that big one.
and then he had a big long run. I don't believe it was a touchdown. I think they got him just a few yards short of the goal line. But that when he had the long run, that's the loudest I've ever heard a crowd in my
And
life
so
was the Jets. That was the
yep, it was
Jets.
against the Jets. It was against the
Yeah.
Jets. And so that's my earliest memory.
Okay.
I mean, I have a lot of memories, but being at the dome and see, I didn't appreciate it then,
Yeah.
but I appreciate it now because I was a young kid. I didn't appreciate
Yeah.
it then. And me and my buddy Mark, and like at that time, I wasn't even a Lions fan. I liked the Lions, but I was a Buffalo Bills fan because I was a front runner. I was a Bills fan, Bulls fan, Braves fan. I was a front runner. And so
Okay.
then later on,
You-
I became a Detroit sports fan because it just made sense. I got
But you
smart.
grew up in Detroit
I
area,
grew up
right?
right in Detroit. Tigers.
Yeah.
My Now we're getting way off track a little bit here.
Yeah.
Going to Tiger Stadium for the first time with my parents against the Minnesota Twins. Johnny Grubb hit 2 home runs. I I'm a baseball guy, so you said
Yeah.
you know Johnny Grubb, so you
Yeah.
I'm a baseball guy, and so which kind of leads me into my next thing.
Sure.
We're diehard Detroit sports fans,
Yeah.
and just judging from some of the posters you posted, you're a Wings fan as well.
All the
Um,
local teams, all of them. Yeah.
we've seen everything. We've
Hmm.
seen 84. We've seen the Tigers. I was real small, so you probably remember 84 more than
I
I do.
do. Yep. I
And
was
I think
10.
they're honoring that team this weekend, aren't they?
Correct. Yes.
84, we've seen the Tigers, and we're Michigan fans. We're Michigan fans as well. So we've
Yep.
seen 97, and obviously we saw last year. We saw
Yep.
89 basketball. We've seen several Red Wings championships. We've
Yep.
seen three Pistons championships. The
Yep.
one thing that especially when I went to college, that people just didn't grasp, we're actually pretty spoiled as sports fans. But the one thing that we haven't seen is a Lions Super Bowl. And it's that background that you have right there. Explain your background here real quick. You explained to me
Yeah.
before the show
So I'll
started.
move. Those of you that don't know, 1957, that's the last time the Lions won an NFL championship. And obviously, 1950, I say NFL championship because there was no such thing as a Super Bowl. Not till I believe 1966 or 67, right in there was the first Super Bowl. So when you said a few minutes ago that your friends at college, that you've never seen the Lions, no one's seen the Lions in a Super Bowl. No one.
Right.
It's never happened. But yeah, even last year with the playoff wins, my wife's family, they're all from Wisconsin, so they're huge Packers fans, and they congratulated me on the win, and I said, you realize that's only the second playoff win in my lifetime. That didn't ring true. That they couldn't even conceptualize how that is true. One playoff win. So yeah, it's been a hoping sense, suffering sense. So you could wear that shirt some days, but
Right.
yeah, for sure.
Yes. So and yeah, I'm just kind of piggybacking what you said. The talking to people around here, me and my family, we live in Suffolk, Virginia, so I
Yeah,
represent the Lions as much as I possibly can because this is like a military type area, and so you got Cowboys fans, you got Commanders fans, you got you got fans for everybody around here, and so
yeah,
they see my Lions stuff, and you'd be surprised people around here that, oh, I'm a Lions fan too. I'm a Lions fan, or even if they're an NFC North type fan, they we have you strike up that conversation in the grocery store line or at the restaurant, and then when they won that first playoff game, and I'm wearing my stuff and I'm so proud, and they're like,
yeah,
"Oh man, congrats!" And I'm like, "Do you realize that's the second playoff win I've seen in my lifetime? In my life, I'm 46 years old."
yeah,
And then they won again. That's we've doubled the amount. I've seen three playoff wins,
yeah,
and that's still sad. Three playoff wins, and so kind of getting off the history of the suffering Lions fans,
yeah.
um, we're in uncharted territory. We've never been. I think we've probably been favorites after. I don't even remember us being favorites before the '91 season. We were probably like picked to go to the playoffs, but I don't ever remember us being the favorite to win the division. As the favorites in winning the division, what are your concerns about that?
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, yes. I think last year technically we were a Vegas favorite. I think to win the division. And if you don't mind, I want to backtrack a couple things that you said I thought were interesting. You
Go
said
ahead.
about going around town. The Hard Knock series on HBO really catapulted the Lions into a public eye. Before and then that fantastic end of season run they had. It's gaining momentum, and Dan Campbell is really the face. I would say he's the face of the Lions, even
I
more
would
than
agree.
Hutch. Yeah, he's the face. And so, yes, there is a growing public wide. And here in the Detroit area, I am seeing so many people that I can just tell they're not Lions fans that are wearing Lions stuff that never, you didn't see that. So, yeah, I would say that. But when you're getting to your question now about being the favorite, I have to admit, there's still just this little twinge of it feeling just too weird, just
It doesn't
crazy
feel real. It doesn't
that
feel real.
like Sports Illustrated this last week came out with they're predicting the Lions to win the Super Bowl. I mean that's like fantasy world. That's like up is down and down is up. You just can't believe it. But as far as my concerns for the season, you know, there's just an eagerness, right? Now it's like, I know that team is good. It is a very good football team. And so now it is more of the fear that the other shoe's going to fall, or that, I mean, barring, I guess you could say, the injuries. You can't have a Goff go down. You can't have a St. Brown go down for, obviously that. But my concerns, if you're looking for specific teams, I mean, I really just see two teams in the NFC that I think are ones that I go, okay, I hope we have that game at home should we playoffs. And that would be the 49ers and the Packers. Those are the two that, in my mind, one's more of the old guard hanging on, and the other one's the one that's up and comer. Their lineup's just about as young as the Lions. But the concerns, I guess, I mean, I want to see this defense. We have not seen the defense. You want to tie the old to the old to the new with the Lions. Under William Clay Ford, the original owner for all the years there during my lifetime, he was so loyal, right? Matt Millen getting extended, and just stuff like that. Do you realize the Lions fired five defensive assistant coaches after last year, including Dre Bly, a longtime Lion from an era that you would have liked, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is not the old Lions. The old Lions, after 12-5, would have held on, like a grip on all of it to keep it the same. But that movement away and replacing five defensive coaches, that tells you a lot about that of Hemp and Holmes, and working your way right on down. That is not the same old Lions, the SOL. For those of you that don't know that, if you see SOL on any Lions fans, that's same old Lions, because getting a 66-yard field goal kicked on you that bounces off the upright, that's same old Lions, right?
Baltimore, yep. Yeah, so your concerns are kind of the same as mine, but the one concern that I have that I'm going to kind of add in here is that, and I'm going to kind of go into the next subject here. My concern is what obvious was is kind of an obvious concern that the nation saw NFC Championship game. I'm a Dan Campbell guy. I love Dan Campbell. I wouldn't want any other coach for my team. I think Dan Campbell is great. I agree with you. He is the face of the team. Most NFL franchises, the face is the quarterback. Golf, people love Goff, and I'm good with Goff too. Dan Campbell's the face of this franchise. But I need for Dan Campbell to think. Do you realize, and I know you realize, because, and I'm not even that bent out of shape. I wasn't even that bent out of shape at the NFC Championship game.
Are you getting to the field goals he didn't kick?
I'm getting to
that you mentioned last week.
I'm getting to decision making. And do I think Dan Campbell is great? Yes. Do I think he's a great coach? I don't know. I think that we have a great offensive coordinator in Ben Johnson, who will be here for one more year. And so I hope we capitalize on that, because I believe that Campbell is, I don't think because you have like Belichick's defensive coach. You got like Mike McDaniel's his name in Miami. He's an offensive coach.
Yeah.
I would say that Dan Campbell's an offensive coach simply because he played tight end, but I don't know what his identity is. Just a motivator. He's a great motivator. And so I hope he grows into being a good coach. So my concern is him. I wouldn't want anybody else. Please don't get me wrong. I wouldn't want anybody else to be the coach. I love Dan Campbell. If I could get a Dan Campbell jersey, actually I could, because he played for the Lions.
Yeah.
I'd probably get that. I'd choose to get that jersey. But he's my concern right now. Hopefully he learns from these mistakes.
Yeah, it's a good point that you're making. This is true about every person in our life, right? People come with strengths, right? They come with strengths, and a lot of times with the strengths, they have blind spots. They have parts that where your strength, or where your incredible gift it can go to that one extreme that all of a sudden it just falls off to the other. I would say the best example of Dan Campbell of what you're talking about is not the um, NFC Championship game. It was the famous Decker 2-point conversion. When that ball went back to the 7-yard line, at that point you kicked the extra point, right?
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
it was cool call. You can argue it worked, you can argue it didn't, but when it went back and now they're on the 7-yard line, that should have been a no-brainer. That should have
Yeah.
been
Kick it and
absolute
overtime.
no-brainer that you kick that extra point, you tie that game. That's stubbornness. Okay. That's not risking. That's not get the gambler in him. That is a pure stubborn streak. Okay. And I I hope that what Dan Campbell does, and I would say that I think he's done that in his very brief NFL career, where he has he has grown in his in-game coaching, but he's always going to have that gambler in him. He's all the fourth down, fourth and fours, and the all that. I don't think that's ever going to change. But yeah, it's the reckless stuff, the stubborn stuff that becomes reckless. That's that's where I'm hoping somebody is in his ear. I don't know who that person would be on his staff. It doesn't seem like they're, Aaron Glenn's defense, if you're looking kind of for a mentor type part. But man, if there is somebody, or if he himself realizes, yeah, I got to back it down when it's reckless and it's just me being stubborn. I agree. That's
But
not my biggest concern with the Lions, though. My biggest concern is still that defense. What is it going to be? Because all we really needed at Sam. Yes, you could have got a field goal. Yes, you could have Josh Reynolds catch a ball. Yeah, all that stuff's true, but that's all because we were waved the white flag on defense. And just that's where I'm really anxious to see can this revamped defensive line and a totally different secondary outside of Branch and a couple small parts. Can that be an average NFL defense? Middle of the
if
road.
they're an average NFL defense, then we're going to win the division again, and we
Oh
might be
yeah.
number one seed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's all they need. And at least they've put the resources into that, right?
Right.
Last year with Laporta, with Gibbs, okay, we had a nice offense. Now we're going to make it really good. And I'm hoping that this year that's kind of how they looked at the defense.
How
And
good is
that's the
Laporta, though? By
focus.
the way? How
Their
good is
free agent
Laporta?
signings, their draft picks, they really looked at the defense.
Yeah, how good is? I mean, just really, how good is Laporta though? That's my dude, man. That guy,
Yeah.
he's so dependable. I love it. He's so dependable. But
I don't know if it's okay to branch off here and jump off
go
here,
ahead.
but we we really don't give Brad Holmes enough credit. I really think that. I think that Dan Campbell, because he's the face, think people give it, but you know, I did some research for this and was looking at it, and I remembered an article that I read when they hired Brad Holmes, and their search for Sheila Hemp, right? She had taken over very recently for her mom. Sheila Hemp Ford had taken over just a few months earlier. They fired Patricia. Their search was entirely different. And Hemp, when she came in that selection of Brad Holmes and getting a committee together and getting and the people that she included, like Spielman and Barry Sanders, and all the research they did. She even brought in an author friend of hers. I don't know if you remember hearing about this at all. His name is Dr. Henry Louis Gates. He's an author. He wrote a book called Stony the Reed. It talks about from Reconstruction to white supremacy to Jim Crow. And you remember Lions under her dad, I mean, they were slapped down by the NFL for not interviewing any black candidates. And the first move that she made in her culture was she gave every player that book in 2020, his book, and then she brought him in to speak to the team. And then 6 months later was the hiring of Brad Holmes. And I think that you want to talk about changing culture. The Lions, that's what was always missing, was they couldn't change that culture, this bad culture, whatever it was. And Brad Holmes, his ability to come in and assess talent, and that's the whole key of a GM. It's, you got to remember, we used to hope that a second round pick would make it.
Right.
Right. Titus Young washes out in 2 years, for example. Right. I mean, all the Kalimba Edwards.
We'd hope a first round pick would make it.
Yeah. And now
Charles Rogers.
You're looking at guys that are drafted late. St. Brown in the 4th round, right? You're looking at guys. So with Laporta, man, when they have moved up to get somebody like they did with Gibbs, they had Laporta, they're just knocking these out of the park. Penei Sewell. I mean, it's not, oh, they got a guy that is on the roster that will give another contract to. No, these are guys are going to wear yellow jackets we're looking at.
Awesome. Yeah,
I mean, that's, we had Calvin and we had Barry. That's it. I mean, we're looking at a roster that potentially could have 5. They're tracking towards 5.
Sewell, Gibbs, Laporta,
St. Brown.
Yeah.
Maybe
Goff.
Jared Goff. Yeah, absolutely. Jared Goff. I mean, 2 different teams with the Super Bowl, taking him there. He wins.
If he gets there, he got to get there though.
If he can get 2 to the Super Bowl and he wins 1, because he's a young guy. He's not that old. There's probably 6, 7, 8 years left in the tank for him. So,
and I appreciate, going back to a point you were making about changing the culture. I appreciate you bringing up one thing. I wasn't even going to go there, but the history of the Detroit Lions, and I didn't even really know a lot of that. But one thing in the community, in the Black community, that we were annoyed with was getting rid of Caldwell.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're loyal to so many other people. Caldwell had us two or three seasons in a row winning record, and we got rid of him.
Since 1990, the Lions have only had back-to-back winning seasons twice. They had it in 93 through 95 with Wayne Fontes, and then Caldwell's I believe 16-17 Lions.
Yeah. So now we got back-to-back ones now, the 9 and 8 and 12.
Yes, that's true. Now we have got 2, but the Caldwell one, the Caldwell firing in and of itself, okay, you're at 9-7, and the kind of the proverbial glass ceiling, right? We're not breaking through the next level. Well, then they follow that up with a Matt Patricia and a Bob Quinn. It could not have gone worse. But yeah, callers on 97.1 The Ticket, the local station here. The African American callers that call, not as much now. The Lions have kind of turned the corner, but you heard that a lot about Jim Caldwell firing. That was just a
a lot of folks didn't forgive it. I don't usually get in that kind of stuff, but I mean, I'm going to be a Lions fan anyway, unless they really just do something crazy. But that was a sore subject. But I wasn't even getting to that. I kind of forgotten about it now because of the success, but you brought up, that's a very interesting point, a very good point, making sure that the culture is right. And I believe under this regime now, the culture is right. And
that's why I answered your concern question that way. It's like, no, because from the very epicenter going out and from the top down, they've got it. They finally have got it.
Right.
And so, the concern now is kind of like, bring it on. We're just I'm ready to see it. And those guys last week that talked about the Bears, they sounded to me like we used to be when we were happy about a couple of things that seemed to be going right. And now this is going to be the year that we do it. Until the Bears show that organizationally, because Chicago organizations, you think about it, when they go bad, they go bad. The Bulls with Krause, and I mean, the White Sox now. I mean,
the White Sox now,
there's a lot of history in Chicago. When the Blackhawks, for years, when that owner was the cheapest owner there was. I mean, I'm not convinced at all. And you started down this path in your podcast last week. I am not sold that Caleb Williams has has the kind of uh, fortitude to make it through struggles. He's shown a little bit of that in college in his college career, and I'm not convinced that this is like a once in a generation quarterback. He may be, he's got a lot of talent, but there's certain red flags that I'm going to be really anxious to see how they play out because he won the preseason. Well, how many times did we win the preseason back when we were
Yeah.
hoping to be good, right?
And I reminded my friends, reminded my friends, we were 4-0 in the preseason, then we went 0-16. The
That's
preseason
correct.
means nothing. Before we even conversations with my buddy Barnes, I was like, he's like, oh, we're doing this good. I was like, dude, let me tell you something real quick.
Where were you?
4-0 in the
Yeah,
preseason, and we were 0-16 that year. He started cracking up, and
yeah,
he realized at that point the preseason
yeah.
doesn't mean anything. It means
Yeah,
nothing.
where were you going? You started on a Caleb Williams comment, and one of them started talking. What were your thoughts on Caleb Williams when they were bringing that up? Because you seem
My
like you
thoughts
have a
on
concern too about him.
my concern with Caleb Williams is it's really how can I say it? I don't wish. I mean, I wish him ill because he's a Bear, and I don't
Sure,
want him to be successful. Nothing personal,
sure.
but as far as leadership, but then I think my concern then is not my concern now
Hmm.
because leadership was something I don't think that I don't know if they're going to follow him. I don't looking at our situation as Lions fans, Jared Goff, I think for sure is a leader, but I don't think he's like that vocal. Raw. He's. I don't think he's going to get in your face type leader. I think he kind of leads by example.
Yes.
I don't know if Caleb Williams has that, but I heard something regarding Caleb Williams that may change a little bit. I heard an interview with can't remember who the show was. I listen to so many different shows, but apparently before a practice or after practice, the Bears locker room was a mess, and he encouraged everybody to hey, we're professionals here, clean this stuff up. If they actually listen to him, a rookie, and I mean, good for him for you don't want to just leave
Yeah.
stuff just trashed up around. If he
Yeah.
can be that kind of a vocal leader in the locker room, I may have to change my mind on that. I need to see it on the field. I need to see it with live bullets, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
But let's see what he does.
Yeah.
And so,
Absolutely.
David, this has been great, but this is one last thing before we go. And
Sure.
we're definitely going to do this again throughout the season. We're definitely going to do this again.
Okay.
And I want to
Cool.
do it with you. I would like to do it maybe Monday or Tuesday after first game.
Yeah.
We'll
Sounds good.
text back. We'll figure out a good time because this has been great. I think you're my Lions insider now. But here we go.
Okay.
The question I asked them, and I'm going to ask you: what do you want to see in the
Yeah.
division, conference, and championship, and what do you think is going to happen? What do you want? Obviously, I can kind of tell what you want in the division. What do you
Sure.
want? What were your perfect division records, or not the records? Your perfect division standings look like? What would you want to see?
Oh, I would love to see a Lions 1-2 finish with the Packers. That I think the Bears. I don't
Not what
think
you
the Bears.
think, what you want.
You know what I
Because
want?
I want the Bears to be dead last.
Oh, I guess if you're saying what I want, I forgot how you worded it that way last week too.
Yeah.
I
What do you want? And then I'll ask you what you think is
a
going to
tie
happen.
for last place between all three of them is what I would want. They're all at
There you
five
go.
and
That's
11.
good.
They're all at 5-11, and the Lions, have it by the division by 6, 7, 8 games. I mean,
Okay,
that's
good.
what I'd want.
Okay. So what do you think is
What
going
the
to happen?
second half of the question is, what do I expect?
Yeah.
I expect both the Lions and the Packers to have 11 plus wins, make perhaps even 12 to 13 apiece. I really think if the Packers defensive core, they've lacked a little bit of discipline in big moments. I don't know if you remember in Lions games getting like the personal foul penalty on the field goal they took, and then they kicked it and they took it off the board, and the Lions scored a touchdown. There's been some key breakdowns. If that defense takes a step forward, I'm not completely sure who Jordan Love is yet either, because
Mm.
everybody's looking at Jordan Love in the playoff game against the 49ers, and they're looking at the good run that he had kind of in the middle of the season. Look at him the first 6 weeks of last year. Look at him the last like 4 weeks. Those numbers were nowhere near what they were in that court. Now you can say that Jared Goff's kind of the opposite, right? He kind of bookended strong and he had a little bit
Yeah.
of dip in the middle. I don't think we're should be convinced that Jordan Love is, the third, kind of like there was Rocky and Rocky 2 and Rocky 3, and you had Favre and then Rodgers and now Love. I'm not convinced that we're in that kind of level with Jordan Love. I'm not yet. I think there still needs to be a little more proof, but I expect those two to go neck and neck. I expect the Bears to be 7-10, 8-9. I would say. I don't think this team is anywhere near where I think the guys your two buddies and they're from Chicago. They hoping they were. I don't see that.
Oh,
And
they're,
then
they're not from Chicago. One's from California and one's from North
well, they were
Carolina right now.
Bears
They're just
people.
Bears fans.
Yeah, they're just Bears fan. And then
Yeah.
Minnesota, you're totally 100% right last week. JJ McCarthy was going to be that quarterback. And I think it's going to be real interesting with Jefferson having quarterbacks like Sam Darnold and whoever else they bring and a whole year of it. That is going to be really interesting to watch.
Right.
Although
And so,
your coach question, I think he may be the best coach in the division is at Minnesota. It may be. I think
the coach question from last week. Yeah, he might, but I just don't think they're. I just think their season's done. But
oh yeah,
you never know. And so, last question before I let you go.
Yeah.
What's your Super Bowl pick? Not what you want. Realistic Super Bowl pick.
I think the Lions are in the Super Bowl, and I really think this is not the Chiefs' year. I think just statistically, no one's ever won 3 in a row, and there's a reason. In almost 60 years, nobody's won 3 in a row. I think the AFC is really wide open, but I think it could be the unthinkable.
Oh
It
no,
could-
no.
it-
Okay. Wait. Before you say it, I already know what you're gonna say.
Go ahead.
I know what you're gonna say. If I had a piece of paper, I'd write it down. But you have to just trust that I'm thinking something in my head.
Okay.
You go ahead and say it.
Well, here I'll give you a hint, and you tell me if you're right. It's
I know what you're saying.
Neither one has been to a Super Bowl.
I know exactly what you're gonna say. So go ahead and say it, and I'll tell you the truth. I'll tell you the truth, but I'm thinking the same thing.
All right.
Wait. Actually, I'll do this.
We're
My
gonna
daughter's
bust out.
actually standing right here. I'm gonna tell her she's standing right here,
All right.
and then I'm gonna hey, Adeline, if he says say yes or no, he says okay. Go ahead. Say what you're gonna say.
We're not going to give out the Super Bowl trophy. It's going to be the Great Lakes trophy that we used to compete for in the preseason, and it's going to be Cleveland, Detroit.
Did I say that, Adeline?
I forgot.
That's what I say. Okay, yeah,
It's Cleveland. I can tell by your face.
Exactly what I was thinking.
I think it's going to be
Cleveland. That would be
Detroit,
crazy.
Cleveland, and we play it outdoor, and we have it all set up. And I think the Lord returns right before the game.
Perfect.
I think that could happen. But yeah,
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, man. We're gonna do this again after game 1. Let's plan to do it Monday or Tuesday, man.
Sounds
game
good.
1.
It was a lot of fun.
Man. Oh yeah,
fun.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, recording is